Welcome back to the UFC Pros Pick Show. I am James Lynch. He is Nick Kalikas. And of course, we got the star of the show, James Krause, who's been on a heater these last couple of weeks. We'll get into that in a second. But first, got to remind everyone to use BetDSI. Use the promo code UFC. You get the signed James Krause photo and you get the match deposit bonus. That's the odds we're going to be referencing here today. And we do every single week on this show. Let's talk about last week. I mentioned the heater there, James Krause. You've been on a roll, man. Dustin Jacoby coming through, getting it done, and apparently injured in the fight and still got it done over a late check. So props to you. It's been 3-4 weeks now of just straight bets that have gone your way, man. So it's been awesome. My prop bet last week did cash Marina Rodriguez by decision. My underdog pick did not cash with that to Barbosa. So this week going to be a little bit more cautious on the picks. But what are you going to do? A lot of really good performances last week at UFC 272. But let's get into this Saturday's main event. We've got a really interesting fight in the light heavyweight division. Magomed Ankalaev taking on Thiago Santos. And right now, Nick, looking at the odds, Magomed Ankalaev minus 556, the comeback on Thiago Santos plus 384. We'll start with sort of the line movement first here, Nick. Have you been seeing a lot of Ankalaev bettors? Because he's got a pretty big fan base.
He does have a pretty big fan base, and deservingly so, man. The guy's phenomenal. I think a lot of people believe that he is the heir apparent to the throne in this weight class. I think he is a future light heavyweight champion. This is a big test for him, of course, and it did seem to open around actually market wide. Looking at the screen right now, about $160 or so, and it closes now closer to minus 600. So again, when most of the books put it up, it was at least minus 400, minus 500. So I think the minus 160 price was obviously available only for a few minutes probably, and then it got bet up like crazy. So market wide though, it's around 500-600 out there, and it seems to be right, man. I know it sounds crazy, and Krause, we talked about it a little bit before we got on air. He thinks the line is a little bit too high. I just think stylistically it's a nightmare matchup for Santos, man. He could stand with Santos, he could be effective on the feet, and he's got the takedown ability as well, and he could finish him possibly on the ground. So I just think stylistically it's a nightmare matchup, and Ankalaev should be a big favorite in this fight.
I don't disagree with any of that. Like, I don't disagree. Like, and I think it's important we've talked about this before, but I think it's important to talk about from for the viewership point of view is like, there's who you think is going to win, and then there's where value lies, right?
Yeah.
And for me, we talked about this off air a little bit. I don't think that Santos is the same person he has been. I don't think he's going to beat Ankalaev. I don't think he's a better wrestler. I don't think he's a better striker. But when you have a guy that just has the ability to end a fight like that, that to me is really, really difficult to lay something like minus 500, minus 550 on a guy that has been a little hittable in the past. You know, I don't think that Santos is going to win, but I just, for me, it's like if you're going to play Ankalaev, if you're going to play that, like, hedge Santos by knockout and see, you know what I mean? Like, because that's the only way he's going to win, right? I think we can all agree that he's not going to win a decision, right? So hedging Santos by knockout, I don't know what the line is on that, but it's got to be plus 750, 700, somewhere in there. It's got to be, you know, I would hedge that on both sides of that to try to get your money. But I just don't, for me, one of the biggest things that I look at when I'm placing bets on fighters is consistency and danger factor, right? Like, is this person able to end a fight like that? And if they are, I don't always like to bet against them. And if I do, I may hedge that underdog by knockout, or the underdog and the under on the over under rounds, you know, because you just see this sport, the margin of error is just too thin, right? You see somebody getting beat up for 13 and a half minutes, and then boom, you know, Santos knocks you out. You know, it's just it's I don't like it. I don't like it when I'm betting on fights, and this guy can hits like a truck.
Yeah, it's a really tricky fight. And, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we had a really interesting light heavyweight fight between Jamal Hill and Johnny Walker. And I remember, you know, we all said, you know, the value is you know, for sure on Hill, you take the inside the distance. But I think with this one, like you mentioned, I think the value is on Santos, because honestly, I don't know if Magomed Ankalaev knocks out Thiago Santos. I know it's a 5-round fight, but you look at a couple of his fights, at least the last couple, they've gone the distance. And I know it's a 5-round fight, but you look at Thiago Santos in general, pretty tough guy to put away. And then on the flip side, like, you know, with Thiago Santos, like, you know, I know you mentioned the one punch knockout power. Really the win that we sort of referenced when we talk about his knockout power is the Jan Blachowicz win. I mean, that's got to be one of the best wins of his career that he was able to do in that fight. That was a little bit later, but he ended up still getting it done. But you look at him fighting Johnny Walker now, and we saw Walker get knocked out a few weeks ago. It's like, you wonder if that same Thiago Santos still exists. I'm not so sure. But like you said, he does have that knockout power. And let's get real here. I mean, Thiago Santos is definitely the best opponent that Magomed Ankalaev has fought, at least to date in the UFC. UFC. Maybe I'm missing someone, but just when I think of opponents, I think Thiago Santos is definitely one of the tougher ones there. With that said, I'm with you, Krause. Like, I think Magomed wins this fight, but if you're going to bet this, I think the only value really is maybe a Thiago Santos knockout. But outside of that, I just don't see a lot of value there. Even again, because could Magomed Ankalaev knock out Thiago Santos? Absolutely, but I just don't know, because like, he's not a guy that's, other than Kutalaba, like, who's he not? He could knock out Volkan Ozdemir, and we've seen Volkan get finished. So it's like, I don't know what we're going to see in this fight from as far as the finish.
Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, for me, my ranking for Ankalaev is number 2 in that division. I think Rakic, and then him is my division, is my ranking on the top 2. You could possibly interchange those two. For me, if you're just dead set on Ankalaev, to me, you would cap a parlay with that, right? Like, or you go Santos and the under, or Santos by knockout. If you have to play these, this is how you play it, in my opinion. But like, for me, I can't play minus 550 on it. I just can't do it. I will cap him on some parlays though.
Yeah, no, I'm not telling anybody to bet it straight, because I think that is a little bit obviously risky, because what you said is true. Santos can knock anybody out, but I do think he
the guys
probably,
like you say like, if you won't bet him straight, then don't put him in a parlay though, right?
That's
like,
true. Yes. But I do find a little bit of wiggle room. If you could get him at minus 500, honestly, I think you can sneak him in a parlay. So around minus 500, if it approaches minus 600, minus 700, then maybe stay away. But I think you have a little bit of wiggle room under minus 600 or so to throw him in a parlay. But that's just me. A lot of people might not think so. So if you don't, then don't put him in a parlay. But I think you can probably, this is a good spot for him, man. This is a test. I think he will pass. Like, I think what Lynch said is true. I think Santos is probably on the decline a little bit. He's still going to be dangerous, but I don't think he's as much of a threat as we all think here. That's why the price is inflated like this. Everybody's going to put him in a parlays. So from a sports book side, we also have to protect those parlays, because everybody's going to be putting him in a basketball parlays. I mean, the college basketball conference tournaments are going on this week. So there's a lot of sports book action coming in over the counter. A lot of books are getting a little bit, March Madness is outside of the Super Bowl. It's the best time of year, obviously, for betting action, right? So we're going to see a ton of parlays coming in. And that's why the line's a little bit more inflated as well. But I do think it's right. And you can sneak it in if it's under minus 600-ish, personally, I think.
That's such a cheater way to get good value, is mix those in with college basketball. I do it all the time. You mix in a college basketball with a spread, and then you put in some, minus 300, minus 400 favorite on it. You get like even money or plus money. It's crazy.
Yep.
I've been doing that with hockey. The Oilers have been playing terrible. I've been betting against them, been getting some good value there. So what are you going to do? But that's Canadian. I gotta play my hockey. All right, let's get to the co-main event. Really interesting fight, kind of a crossroads fight for both fighters. We've got Song Yadong taking on Marlon Moraes, bantamweight division right now. Song Yadong, the favorite at minus 244. The comeback on Marlon Moraes plus 205. The reason I say it's crossroads is because I think this is the one big test here for Song Yadong to sort of get to that next level. And for Moraes, it's pretty much about keeping his job. I mean, he hasn't won a fight in forever. Like, you think of him fighting Cejudo a few years ago and nearly winning that fight, and then getting finished later. And then now here he is on a pretty bad losing streak here. I know he did have the win over Aldo in between there, but we'll start with you first, Nick. Notice a lot of movement here, because again, a lot of people are high on the up-and-comer Song Yadong, who's a lot younger here than Marlon Moraes.
Yeah, I think so. But the line is staying pretty steady, especially as of late. So I think a lot of people are kind of conflicted, because, I mean, if this was back a couple years ago, there's no question Moraes would be he wouldn't be an underdog. He'd be a favorite. He'd be a decent sized favorite, right? But I do think Yadong is the more attractive side for bettors out there. He opened under minus 200. Now he's settled around minus 250-ish, 240-ish out there as well. So I do think there's some value actually on the Yadong side. I know Moraes, like I just said, I'm kind of contradicting myself, because he would be a favorite back in the day, but this is not back in the day. He's lost 3 straight fights. Even though he's had his moments in some of those fights, his durability is not there for me. He seems to gas a little bit as well as the fight progresses. He's just not the same fighter as he was when he held that World Series of Fighting title, right? I think that was a different type of Moraes that we're seeing. The skill is definitely there. I mean, he's one of the most technical strikers I've seen grace the sport of MMA, period. I mean, he's that good. But that being said, Yadong continues to improve. He's got some knockout power, of course, and I think he is more durable. So if this fight hits the scorecards, it probably will be pretty close, but we haven't seen Moraes hit the scorecards in his last 3 fights. Something's given before he's gotten there. So I think that's the case here as well. That's why it's pretty steady, I think, around minus 240, minus 250s out there, and I think it'll stay around that price.
Krause, which way are you leaning in this one? Are you going with the up-and-comer, or are you going with Marlon Moraes here?
This is the same thing as the main event to me. I feel like Song should pass this test, but we're still in the same. Like, I think Marlon can win this fight. I do, and he's so dangerous. And so if you play this, to me, if you're going to play Song Yadong, you hedge with first round knockout with Marlon Moraes, or Moraes in the under, or Moraes by knockout. Like, you can't tell me that this dude still doesn't pack a punch and still is super dangerous. I mean, we're one punch away from him just knocking Merab into the shadow realm. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
Merab, I'm extremely high on him. I do agree with Nick. You know, we talk about the 3 losses, and then there was the win with Aldo, which everybody thought he lost. But the dude still can crack, man. And that's, I don't like betting. Once again, if I'm gonna bet on something like that, we're talking about at home. If you have to bet on this fight, you go Song Yadong, or you bet Moraes in the under, or Moraes by knockout, because Moraes is not going to win a decision. I think we can all agree on that, right? Like,
possibly it's 3 rounds though. I mean, yeah. I will see. And just one other thing I'll mention, sorry to interject here, but Song Yadong has never been finished in the UFC either. So that's another thing to consider. And granted, the level of opposition, not quite a Marlon Moraes, but still, you do wonder if he takes a couple shots like a Merab, and maybe he goes ahead. We'll see.
I don't see him being able to last with Song Yadong as far as 15 minutes with pace.
Right. Well, the other thing is, I mean, you guys keep on saying about the Merab fight, but Merab is not the striker Yadong is either. I mean, not defensively, not offensively. So that's a different type of matchup, I think, regardless. You know what I mean? It's a different situation. And like you guys just mentioned, I mean, Yadong, he's very durable. He hasn't been finished in the UFC. So I think if they get in a firefight, Moraes is going to have his moments for sure, but I don't think he could take it at this point. I really don't. And it's sad to say, right? But because, like I said, I think he's one of the funnest fighters to watch. You know what I mean? The way he competes, the way he goes out there, and his striking's so awesome. But he just can't take it anymore.
But you're telling me that Moraes can win a decision?
I think the judges can butcher a decision. We've seen it time and time again. If it's close, man, I think if it hits the scorecards, that means Moraes has probably had his moments and he's in the fight. So I think it would be competitive if it hits the cards, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think it'll be close. And then with the state of MMA judging, you just never know what they're watching. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think it's going to get to that. I think it's going to, as the fight progresses,
I don't either.
Traffic.
Yeah, I think honestly, Yadong finishes them. And if it hits the cards, I do favor him as well.
So I'm going the other way on this one. I do like Marlon Moraes, and what it comes down to for me is I think this is the type of matchup that I think Marlon can win. I mean, you look at who he's losing to over those last couple fights. Merab, we just talked about, maybe the dark horse in the division. Rob Font, Corey Sandhagen, Jose Aldo, which I get. They're I mean, these are level. All those fighters I just mentioned would, in my opinion, be betting favorites over Song Yadong. And I know you can't always look at MMA math, and you can't always look at things like that. And Song Yadong coming off a very impressive finish over Julio Arce. I mean, Arce is not an easy guy to put away. He's fought some pretty tough guys himself. For Song to do that, I think it showed, hey, this guy's leveled up, because he's still very young. I mean, he's not even. I think he's mid-20s, right? So you are getting a better fighter every time out. But my thing is, I just think that with Moraes' power, and this is why I think he could win a decision. Because let's say he doesn't knock out Song Yadong, maybe Song has this chin that we've never even seen that's been tested. I mean, he's never been finished in the UFC. What if Marlon just lands those harder shots, and that counts more than maybe say what Song Yadong could do in terms of outstriking him or something? So I could see a situation like that where you have a guy who's landing harder, and the judges are taking that in consideration. And then when it goes to the scorecards, whose face looks more messed up, at Song or is it Marlon Moraes, right? So I think for me, it's like Marlon knows this is it. The other thing too is one of the things we didn't talk about during that losing streak. What happened in between then? He switched gyms. You remember he went to American Top Team. As far as I know, I don't think he's there anymore. He went to Thailand to train this time around. I don't know if that's going to help or hinder him. We'll see, but he did switch this up. So I am expecting a different Marlon Moraes in this fight. And I think he knows his job's on the line here. Like, you can't be losing as much as he is. To me, this is an opportunity for him to take on a guy who's not nearly as experienced in terms of quality opposition in Song Yadong. So I mean, you're getting Marlon Moraes at plus 200. I'll gladly take that. So again, I've been bad on dogs the last couple of weeks, but this is one where I just saw it and I'm like, I just think Marlon wins this. So I'm going to go Marlon Moraes with the upset. And I just think the value, like we talked about earlier, I think there's a lot of value on Marlon, with the fact that you are kind of hoping that, there's some of that past glory that's going to come in this fight. Whereas with Song Yadong, I mean, we're just having to guess that he's improved this much to beat a Marlon Moraes. I don't know. That's how I look at this fight.
Fair.
There we go.
You made a good argument for sure.
I definitely think
you're wrong. There. Respectfully, yeah. I think you're wrong. But
okay. Wouldn't be the first time.
No, but you do make a lot of good points. I like it.
Yeah, and this could be the fight where, like you said, Song Yadong comes out, finishes Moraes, and it's like, okay, he is as good as we thought. He's the new breed. Moraes definitely not UFC caliber, but I think he's got one more left in him. I think he gets it done here. We'll see. Let's get to our prop bet of the week. We were talking off air about how this card's a little bit tricky with some of the fights and all that. So I had to get a little bit creative, and I also want to make sure that my prop bet cashes like it did last week. So one of the prop bets I was looking at, this Miranda Maverick and Sabina Mazo fight, I think is a little bit closer than the odds are indicating. I know Mazo's struggled lately in the cage. I know Miranda Maverick arguably won, I think, 2 fights ago against Macy Barber. That was a pretty bad decision there. But typically, these two women have not finished a lot. So I like the fight goes the distance prop in that one at minus 250. You get a little bit not as good value if you just did the over, but I think it will go the scorecards. And you know me, I got to get some plus money in there, at least close to plus money. So I'm going to parlay that with Jillian Robertson. She's fighting JJ Aldrich. I think Jillian wins that fight. I think she's better everywhere in that one. I think JJ Aldrich has been a pretty average fighter during her UFC tenure. Whereas I think with Robertson, because she's so young, you're seeing those improvements. And I just feel like her ground game's better. So if you put that together, you're getting close to plus money. Your thoughts on that, guys, and your prop bet of the week, Krause? What are you thinking?
I could see that. I don't know if I agree with either one of those, to be honest with you.
Well, that's why we're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see Mazo and Maverick getting finished on the Maverick side. I could see a situation where she pounds her out late. She's very physical. I could see that. Likely, no, but I could see it. So at minus 250, that's a little steep for me. And then the Robertson fight, I kind of agree with you, but JJ's striking, I think, is better than Robertson. If this fight hits the ground, it's going to be one-way traffic for Robertson for sure. But dude, JJ has stops and takedowns, and she can strike. She can strike. So that one scares me a little bit as well. If this fight hits the ground, Robertson's going to be all over her. But Robertson's not going to look to strike, though. I think if this is a kickboxing match, I think she's going to get outstruck. I really do. And JJ has shown decent takedown defense in the past, and I think Robertson's takedowns are coming from more relentlessness rather than technique, So it's an interesting matchup. I don't necessarily dislike it, but I could see scenarios where both of those get spoiled. I guess that's
even better. We got more to talk about next week if that's the case, and I always like it. So that's good.
I think the Aldrich fight does come down, obviously, with takedowns. If Robertson's able to get her down, then she's going to probably win that fight. If she's not, then she's going to get busted up on the feet as well. So it all will come down to the grappler wrestler versus striker type of fight in this aspect of things as well. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, no, excellent.
I'm going to do my prop bet. I'm going to go a little bit of a wild card on mine. I don't know what the line is for Moutinho and Guido Canetti to go the distance.
I was looking at that too, actually. Yeah, Chris Moutinho super durable, like we saw in the O'Malley fight, right?
They're both very durable. Durable. Canetti only gets finished by sub. Typically, Moutinho is a striker. I don't think either one of these guys are really going to look to take the other down, and I don't know if their wrestling is good enough to do it. To be honest with you, I think this fight's going to be standing the whole time. Both these guys are extremely durable. We've seen Moutinho in the O'Malley fight. We've seen Canetti. That's what he's known for, is just being a durable dude. So I think the over 2.5 is sitting somewhere around minus 140, but to go the distance, I'm not sure what that is. I'm sure it's
like minus 125. I'm seeing, it varies a little bit, but you're getting close to plus money, which, I think there could be some value there.
If you want to parlay that, cap that with Ankalaev or something like that, that's to get your plus. If you absolutely have to have plus money, I think that's a good play. Or cap it, throw it in with my play of the week, which I feel really good about.
For me, I will go actually on the total as well. I think the main event, it's a pick 'em around 3.5 rounds, right? And I think it probably goes under. And that way, if Santos does pull off that upset win that we were talking about earlier with his knockout power, obviously, it probably goes under, right? But I do think that the other side of it, Ankalaev is going to have his moments. I know, like James Lynch just talked about, at times he's not finishing his opponents. I get that, but I think this is a very good spot for him. Like I said, I think he does have that knockout power on the feet. I think he can finish on the ground, gets mount position, possibly starts unloading, or maybe he finds a sub on the ground as well. So I think under 3.5 rounds, if you're getting a near pick'em price, you might want to lean that way for my prop.
Interesting. I disagree on the Krause prop bet there, just because the only thing is, like, Canetti he's been finished in, I think, 3 of his last 4 fights or something like that. But even aside from that, the UFC's given him a layup here. I mean, Canetti's 42 years old. Moutinho took that O'Malley fight on short notice. I think the UFC's kind of throwing him a bone here.
You think Canetti's going to finish Moutinho?
No, I don't. I think though that Moutinho could finish Canetti.
I do too. I don't trust Canetti's durability as much. And then if you look at Moutinho too, he has been finished outside of the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. Correct? Yeah,
great. Yeah. I think Tony Gravely finished him. There's a few others.
Neither one of these guys are finishing anybody. We'll see. You know what I mean? Like that. Obviously, it's kind of a wild card. I said that going into it, but like, I feel like these guys are finishing lesser guys, and I feel like I don't think that either one of their wrestling is good enough to take the other down. So I think this will be kickboxing. And I don't. Moutinho's not a big puncher, and Canetti's not a big puncher either. So that's just where my mind went on it. We'll see.
No. It's true. I literally, when you said that, I was looking at it as well because it did cross my mind. But then when I looked a little bit closer, I was like, oh yeah, Canetti has been finished. But either way, like it's going to be an interesting test for both guys and to sort of see where that goes. And then Nick, as far as the main event goes, I mean, look, we'll see. Ankalaev knows that if he goes out there and performs really well, he's probably going to get, maybe he could leapfrog Rakic. Who knows what's happening with that fight with Jan Blachowicz? So I mean, if he goes out there and finishes Thiago Santos, entirely possible. My only thing with Thiago, though, if I'm not mistaken, his last stoppage loss, I think, was a bit later against Glover, and that was a fight where he was looking good early. He just sort of gassed himself out because he couldn't finish Glover. So it was kind of like, Glover sort of took advantage of that. So we'll see. But that's what I mean. This is a tough card to pick and to sort of look at, as you can see, three guys here with diverse opinions. So there we go.
It makes it fun though too as well.
And it does. And like I said, plenty to talk about next week.
Yeah. And the viewers can appreciate a little bit of, back and forth, because we are breaking this down from every possible angle and every opinion. So this is cool. I like it.
Yeah. Let's get to our bet of the week. Krause, what do you like in here?
Parlay Maverick, parlay with Sadiq Yusuf. I like this play a lot. I'll probably double down on my typical play amount on this play. I believe you get right at pick 'em money. I'm pretty sure it's right at plus money. I really like both of these fights a lot. There's others that I like on this card. I said this off air. I said there's a bunch that I like, but there's not really much that I love on this card. But I really like both of these fights a lot. I think they're both going to hit. And I don't want to say easily, but I think it's going to be one-way traffic on both these fights.
Interesting. Like I told you off air, I kind of disagree on both. I actually like the dogs in both those fights. And let me explain why. And actually, I got a lot of crap for people giving me grief about picking Sabina Mazo. But what it comes down to for me with Mazo's so much bigger than her. Like, if you look at the height and reach, she's got, I think, a 5-inch reach advantage. Now, granted, that also means you can get hit a little bit easier. Remember, Nunes, who fought Ramona Pascal a few weeks ago? Like, she was able to, go and hit her and kind of light her up a little bit. Maybe something happens here, but I don't know. I think Mazo, and Mazo's another one. I mean, if she loses this, she could get cut, right? So I think there's a lot at stake here. So I think Mazo, that fight's a little bit closer. And the problem with that I have with Sadiq Yusuf, like on paper, I agree with you. I think Sadiq Yusuf is the better fighter. He's younger. There's a lot to like here. He just hasn't fought in a while. It's going to be almost a year that he last competed. He hasn't fought a ton since then. And he just is coming off a loss in his last fight. I think Caceres is one of those vets, for whatever reason. I can't even explain the science behind it or whatever, but he always seems to find a way to win. Like, he's got this weird winning streak that no one seems to be paying attention to. And I think this is a fight where, again, with that veteran experience he has, he might be able to go in and make some magic here. But again, like I said, if you look at this on paper, that will likely hit. But I don't know. I got my questions. That's all.
I got lunch that says neither one of those two underdogs win a round.
Sure.
Ooh, nice. I like it. I actually agree with Krause as well. That's going to be part of my best bet. I think you could honestly bet Yusuf straight. I mean, there's minus 230s, 240s, 220s out there. So I think you could take him straight and lay that chalk a little bit, because I think there's wiggle room there. Or for me, you can put him in a parlay as well with Moraes. We just talked about that. I think if you parlay Moraes and Yusuf, you're going to get plus money. You're getting like around plus 110, plus 06, somewhere around there. So a two-teamer with both those guys. I know, again, we have some conflicting opinions on the show about those fights, but I do think they both come through. I think Yadong outlasts. Like I said, he's more durable. He's going to win the fight. I think he probably finishes Moraes. And on the other side of it, I think Yusuf probably finishes Caceres. Caceres has been pretty good. I like what you're saying, Lynch. He is getting underrated, disrespected somewhat, according to what he's done recently. But I think there's certain levels. And in this spot, I just think Yusuf is a level above him. I don't think Caceres is going to be able to get the takedown. And I think on the feet, it's going to be competitive until it's not. I think people seem to forget that Caceres has had some chin issues in the past, and Yusuf get hit like a truck, man. He's explosive. So I think he does find that chin of Caceres and probably gets him out of there as the fight progresses. So a two-teamer for me, a plus money with those two.
Okay, there we go. My bet of the week is a fight we haven't even talked about yet. Javid Basharat. This is the guy, if you remember, won on Contender Series, pretty impressive victory. I had to deal with a bunch of personal stuff sort of going in. Remember, there was the comments from his opponents and all that. But this guy looks like the real deal. 11-0. I know he's been training with Jake Shields at Extreme Couture. A lot of people raving about this guy, and 100% finish rate. I mean, there's a lot to like here about Javid going into this. He's also been, like I said, training in Vegas, so doesn't have to do much travel or anything like that. Trevin Jones is has had a weird career. Like remember he had that no contest against Tamil Valiev. You got the really big win over Mario Batista, and then had like 3 canceled fights in a row. It's going to be his first fight since August, a fight where he lost against Said Yukub in his last fight, a fight that I think he was expected to win here. I just think you're getting him at -145. Typically, I don't like picking fighters off Contender Series to make their UFC debut, but from what I've seen of this guy, he looks legit, and he's a guy that I think is really coming into his own right now, and I think he's going to go out there and perform. And again, it's not plus money, but it is -145 right now. Maybe you parlay him with, like we said, Ankalaev or someone, I don't know, but I think at -145, I think that's I'm playing it a bit more safe this week, but I think that Javid is a guy that is going to go in there and perform in his debut, and I think Trevin Jones is the perfect opponent to do it against, because I think Jones has just been very inconsistent. So that's my bet of the week. Your guys' thoughts on that?
I like it. I think that's going to be a great fight, man. I love watching Trevin Jones perform, but this is a good spot. So I like it. You're not laying big chalk either. I mean, -145. I think those are the type of favorites. If you find an angle and you find some value, you can target that. They're kind of, I don't want to say safer bets, but you're not going to lose a ton if you're not right. So I think that's a good spot, especially if you find value there. So I like it.
And Lynch, you're good at these little, like the newcomers that nobody's really sure of yet. You're good at those. What was the
Jasmine Jazavidians?
Yes.
That was I didn't see that one coming, but you called that. It was good.
Oh, man.
Every now and then, who knows? We'll see what happens. Talk to me next week, and we'll see what happens. But for now,
when we're picking dogs, people got to understand. I mean, dogs are supposed to lose, right? So I mean, you're up against it when you're picking a dog. Period. In most cases. So just because we're losing some dogs here and there, if there's value there, and the way some of these dogs are losing by splits, man, and stuff like that. So no, there's no shame in losing a dog pick, especially if you find value there, and it's going to happen from time to time.
How about my boy Tim?
Unfortunately, more times than we want,
Tim Elliott by decision. Let's go.
Yeah.
Tim Elliott.
Oh, nice, dude.
Let's go.
By the way, that was definitely, I mean, that was a great fight. I'm kind of frustrated that I was tempted to bet Elliott, to be honest with you, because I figured it would be closer, but I just stayed away from it. But good win, man.
No, that was great. Just 2 more fights I wanted to just quickly mention, just because again, this is a close card from the betting perspective. Carl Roberson and Khalil Roundtree is a really interesting one to me, because Carl's moving up to 205. He doesn't have to worry about the weight cut issues. It's always been plaguing him his entire career. And Khalil is one of these guys, and I even mentioned this to Carl in our interview. Khalil's just like, he's either one fight he's completely on and looks like an absolute killer. Like you look at when he fought Eric Anders or when he fought Modestas Bukauskas, he looked completely on. And then there's other fights where it's like, what's going on here? So this is an interesting one to me, because Carl as well, like I think he's a guy that hasn't really lived up to his potential. We'll see how he looks at 205, and he's been working a ton with Corey Anderson going into this fight. So we'll see if that sort of works out. But what do you make of that fight? Because that's almost a pick 'em too. I think Roundtree's the underdog right now.
He is the underdog.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, Krause, can I jump in first? I know you're going to be able to give a lot more input, so I'll try to make it quick. But from the betting perspective, from the betting angle, the market actually opened Roundtree as a favorite. Like the books had Roundtree -130, -140, -135 out there. I actually went up at circa at around a pick, -110 flat, because honestly, I think this is a lot more closer to a coin flip. If not, you can have Roberson being a slight favorite. So when I went to a pick on -110, we still had some decent respected action, hit my line at -110 instead of going out there and hitting the market that had like +110 or whatever, right? So they found value at my -110 price. We moved it to try to get some action, obviously back quicker than not on the Roundtree side, right? And we did get some buyback there for sure, because there was a scalp on the board. So we got the money where we wanted. The line kind of shifted back a little bit, but we were still at around -120 or so for the Roberson side. Then we had another sharp come in and bet that side again as well for a max bet or more, I should say. And then we moved the line accordingly again. So right now we do have Roberson as a slight favorite, and I think it's right, man. I think he is probably going to win this fight. What you said, Lynch, I mean, the inconsistencies of the Roundtree side, I mean, he is dangerous. We're talking about guys with knockout power and explosiveness. He has that for sure, but I just think Roberson can strike with him. I think Roberson's going to be sneaky enough to probably look for those takedowns along the way, and I think he's got a better ground game here. So I'll let the coach now talk. Obviously, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, James Krause, you're coaching Roberson this weekend.
Oh, yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah, of course you've been working with him. Yeah, so.
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing with Khalil is the pressure, right? Like he does really good with guys that stand right here with him. He's great there. Like there's no pressure coming, he's nasty. But if you start to put some pressure on him, his volume lowers quite a bit, and he's not as near as offensive as he normally is. He's got a very good check hook from the right side. If you overcommit on your jab, he's extremely good with that. But I do feel like I've had 2 camps with Carl now. I've seen some drastic improvement. To me, they're the same guy. But my goal with Carl was to blend the strikes together better, than he has before. These guys both have a tendency to get one track minded. I think they're the same guy, to be honest with you. I think they're the same type of fighter. And my job and my goal was to add to Carl's game and mix things up. And I'm not even talking about takedowns. I'm just talking about mix the striking up, hands to feet, feet to hands, pressure, draw. And I do think Carl's in a different place, obviously, than he has been in the past. He's looked really good. I can't discount Roundtree because he's a cracker, man. He can hit. And we got to respect that, So we've got plans to deal with that. And I do think Carl has more ways to win than Khalil does.
And just one more I wanted to get your thoughts on, because again, it's close fights. Every now and then I think I'll pick out a fight if there's any sort of interesting thing here. But this Drew Dober and Terrence McKinney fight is really interesting to me, because McKinney just fought a few weeks ago, another situation where he came through, I think, as an underdog. And you've got Drew Dober who, again, a little bit of inconsistency, right? Like some fights he looks really good and he's got all that experience. And then there's other fights where, he's getting finished. So I'm just curious your guys' thoughts on that one, because Dober's is like favorite. Who he got finished by? He got finished by Islam, and then he got finished by, and then I think, but hold on, I think Brad Riddell, didn't he finish him? I'm trying to remember.
No, as a decision.
No, I mean they almost
decision. That's
a
right.
million times. That was a crazy good fight. But I see what you're saying, Lynch. I dig what you're saying. If you actually take a peek closer at Dober's resume, the Riddell fight, obviously Makhachev. Okay, the losses speak for themselves. Those are not bad losses. But some of the wins, man, Hernandez hasn't lived up to what he should have been. Hakparas, he caught pretty early. If that fight plays out, I think it would have been a little bit competitive. And the Reyes fight, that's not a good win. So I think his wins are a little bit overinflated slightly as well. I mean, look, Dober can crack. He's gotten better for sure. I love the fact that he's working with Gaethje and crew in Colorado. I think it's brought his game to another level. But that being said, I think it's probably – there's just a little bit too much hype on the Dober side, but you can also say there's a lot of hype on the McKinney side. Yeah. I mean, this guy's rise is ridiculous, right? He's going out there finishing some decent competition early on in his UFC career, and his ceiling's high as well. So I wouldn't personally lay the chalk. I think it's a dog or pass situation, but we are seeing more dog bets come in sportsbook wise because the line continues to drop on the McKinney side.
There you go. Krause, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I love Terrence McKinney. I think what he brings to the table, Drew is extremely good at. He's very difficult to take down. Great takedown defense, great cardio, granite chin. I think this is too much too fast for McKinney. Dober has had some real high level experience with a lot of guys. I don't think that McKinney has seen that, and I want to know what happens. This is what the question I keep asking every time Terrence McKinney fights is like, what happens when that guy doesn't go away? You know what I mean? What happens when you don't get that guy out of there in the first 5 minutes? Because I don't think he's going to get Dober out of there in the first 5 minutes. Dober's going to hang around, in my opinion. I'm not saying McKinney can't get him out of there. I'm just saying Drew Dober has made a career off of not going away. And I don't disagree with what you said, Nick. Like, some of his wins can be in question. But, like, you look at that Brad Riddell fight, that could have gone either way, right? Like that
was a good fight, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we all agree that Brad Riddell is on an elite, like he's in that top 15, no problem. Top 10, no problem. So that tells me Drew Dober is right there with him, right? So,
good point.
Yeah, I think this is too much too fast for McKinney, and I think McKinney's gonna maybe have some moments early. But I don't think Drew's going to go away. I think he's going to keep pressing, and I think he's going to find a way to win this fight.
There you go. A little bit extra content for you guys this week. Make sure you hit up BetDSI. Use the code word UFC. Get the match deposit bonus and get the signed James Krause autograph photo. We'll be back here next week previewing another UFC card. I guess it's UFC London. They're all blended together. It's so tough to keep track of these fight nights and everything. So we'll be back next week doing that. For myself, Nick Kalikas, James Krause. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week, and best of luck this Saturday with the fights.